Hello, everyone. I'm Erin Autin, Senior Director of Research and Content at Zpryme, and I'm joined today by Anthony Allard, Executive Vice President at Hitachi Energy, to talk about some of the transformations happening across the energy and utilities industry. Thank you so much for joining me today, Anthony.
Good morning, Erin. Pleasure being with you.
All right, so we're going to get right into things here. And first, could you tell me, I'm curious how you just first got started working in the energy sector?
Yes, good question. So I studied electrical engineering, which was kind of my basis. So for me, making a jump quickly after my degree into the energy sector was not a big stretch. So which is what I did. So I started working in that in the power system industry back in Paris in the early 2000s, and started actually working as a project manager. That was my first role, working on project in the Middle East. And then quickly after that, moved back to the US, whereas where I was prior to that, and also worked in the grid industry in the US. And since then, I've pretty much stayed in the grid industry or in the renewable industry, whether based in North America, in Latin America, or Asia. And I took on that role with Hitachi Energy a bit more than a year ago, moving back to the US from Singapore.
So, can you tell me a little bit more about your role at Hitachi Energy and some of the key projects that you're working on?
Absolutely, Erin. So Hitachi Energy is actually a joint venture between Hitachi and ABB, two large multinationals. And so I have the chance of working with this company, which is really championing the urgency of the energy transition through innovation and partnership. And actually, the name Hitachi Energy is a new name. We had adopted the name at the end of last year, and the intent was to better reflect the purpose of our company, which is advancing a sustainable energy future for all. So as part of that company, I am looking after the North American organization, which is the US, Mexico, and Canada. And so our organization in North America at a high level, we have almost 5,000 talented people. We have 10 manufacturing facilities across North America, and we have two R&D centers. So in terms of exciting project, I mean, there were so many to talk about, but in line with what I say, in line with the purpose of a company of advancing a sustainable energy future for all. Let me give you three examples. So one is we recently completed a project with Minnesota Power. The project was called Great Northern Transmission Line Project, and here the intention and the goal of the project was to increase the transmission capability of hydropower from Manitoba, Canada, to the US. And so here, thanks to our technical leadership, we were able to deploy one of the world's largest series capacitor solution, which going forward, will help Minnesota Power to import more and more reliably hydropower from Manitoba in Canada. So that's one example. Another example is a project that we completed in northern Canada in a community called Fort Chipewyan. So this is a remote community in northern Alberta. Historically, this remote community had been, powering its community through electricity coming either from the grid or coming also from very expensive and polluting diesel generators. So what we did with this community, we deployed an energy storage solutions that now has allowed them to shift 100% to renewable energy. And then the last one I will mention is mobility. Mobility, the shift from a gas engine to electric vehicle is extremely important to really advance towards the goal of a carbon-free future. So here we are working, for example, right now in the US with a large fleet owner of a vehicle who has the ambition also of shifting towards electric vehicles. So here we're working with them, deploying our own charging solutions, but also our storage solution. But at the same time, also one of the challenges that we see when it comes to electric vehicle charging infrastructure is that the point of connection with the utility is actually not as straightforward and not as easy as it could sound. So here, this is where experience working with utilities also brings value to these customers, and we helping them going to the hurdles and helping them to deploy their electric vehicle infrastructure. So just three examples of projects that I think are very relevant to the purpose of the company of advancing a sustainable energy future for.
Wow, so it sounds like you've seen a lot in your career around the world and in the industry itself. And, right now, I think one of the biggest topics of discussion is 2030 decarbonization and net zero goals, especially in the US. That's a big focus for us. So, what do you see as one or two of the biggest challenges to meeting those goals?
I think couple I say two challenges. The first one is about decarbonization of power generation. That's one, and the second one is about meeting the increasing demand from electrification. So let me expand a bit more on each of them. So first, the power generation. So today in the US specifically, only 40% of the power generation come from carbon-free sources. So we have a long way to go to replace those remaining 60% and shift to either carbon-free resources or to incorporate carbon capture technologies. So here there's a lot of work that we need to do. It's going to go through transmission investment, storage investment, and a number of order investment in order to bring the additional capacity that we need to bring into our grid, bring the additional flexibility, bring the additional reliability that we need in order to match the load with now weather dependent type of fuel, and which is also non-dispatchable, which will be new going forward. So that's on the power generation side. Then when it comes to the second element, which is around the electrification of the economy. So here we are going through a huge change right now where the electricity is becoming the backbone of the energy system, meaning that going forward, all the building will be shifting to electricity. Today, might be surprising, but this is not entirely the case. Transportation will shift to electricity. So all that additional demand for electricity will require an upgrade and a build-up of a grid infrastructure, which again will require a lot of investment and a lot of deployment of cutting-edge technology.
Could you elaborate a little bit more on some of the core technologies that will enable some of these efforts and maybe accelerate them?
Yes, so I can. I mean, there's just so many of them, right? But I'll focus on three. So the first one I would talk about is HVDC, high voltage direct current, which is actually a technology that Hitachi Energy pioneered many years ago, and we are one of the leaders in that field. So this technology, why do I bring that up? Is because this is a technology that allows us to transport over long distance in a very efficient way a large chunk of power. And this is in the US in particular extremely important now, when you think about the fact that most of the renewable energy onshore is between in the middle of the US. And we need to bring a lot of that power back to the coast where most of the loads are. So HVDC technology will be key not only for onshore but also for offshore. Right now we're doing a lot of work with some of the developer in the US for offshore wind solution. And as you move your wind farms away from the shore, you reach a point where you need to use that technology again to be cost efficient and to bring you some of the flexibility that you need. So HVDC is one. The second one I would say is high power electric vehicle charging infrastructures enabled by digital energy, because here again the transportation sector is a huge sector in terms of carbon emissions. So we need to make that shift to electric vehicle, and this is going to require a lot of deployment of electric vehicle charging infrastructure. And this is, I think, an element where we cannot underestimate the stress that this is going to bring on the grid. So here, EV charging technology, smart EV charging technology, digitally enabled in order to optimize the way you charge your vehicles is going to be extremely important. And then the very last one I would talk about is the digitalization of the entire energy system. There are many reasons for that. One is optimization of the use of your assets. But the one really in particular that I think is extremely relevant is the integration of renewable energy. Because of the nature of renewable energy, which are really weather dependent, that you cannot predict as well as a dispatchable, for example, gas plant, the use of digital technology allows us to have a better real-time understanding of the state of the grid and a better real-time ability to control the grid and to control the flows in order to accommodate for this increasing part of the renewable power in the generation mix.
Okay, so you touched a little bit on the electrification of transportation and how much of a heavy load that's going to put onto the grid. Can you talk a little bit about fleet electrification and how that plays a role in the broader clean energy transition?
Yes, absolutely. So indeed, transportation is a key sector when it comes to carbon emissions. It's actually the sector that contribute the most in the US to carbon emissions. So making that transition to electric vehicles is extremely important. And in particular, when you think about the different type of electric vehicle, what we call the fleet, which are the trucks that you see on the highway or the buses, those are high utilization vehicle, meaning that it is the interest of the owner to run them all the time to maximize the return on those assets. So here, there's a lot of focus on shifting those type of vehicles. But the challenge with that is that those consume a lot of electricity. So the charging infrastructure that you need to have are high consumption type of equipment, meaning that you need to be able to accommodate that additional load on the grid. And today we see that as a big challenge. We're doing some project in the US because we have a charging infrastructure solutions. And we see with some of the customers the challenge already, a little bit of the tension already between fleet owners who have almost their truck almost delivered today and the utility that they were talking to, because the utilities sometimes are not really ready to accommodate those additional charging infrastructure. Their grid is not able to manage that additional load. And sometimes for a utility, it can take months and sometimes even years to be able to upgrade. So here we do a lot of work with some of our customers, both on the utility side, but also on the fleet ownership side to kind of help those two industries who haven't really talked to each other in the past, and we have the chance to have experience with both industries, and we speak the language of both, so we kind of in the middle building that bridge and really helping that transition on the fleet electrification side.
Yeah, that's really exciting. I think that's going to be a huge change for the industry, and even just making our streets quieter is something I'm excited about. You also kind of touched on digital transformation being key to modernize a little bit, but I'm curious if there are areas, like specific areas that you think will benefit most from digital transformation, customer experience, energy management, transmission, any specific areas you'd like to talk about?
Yes, I mean there's a lot that we can gain from digitalization. So I'll just mention three. The first one is utility operation improvement. I think here one of the biggest gain is that digitalization, and in particular the ability to now get real-time visibility on the state of your field equipment on the grid, gives you an ability to take better real-time decision through data analytics, and also give you the ability to provide better support to your field service teams through virtual reality or through augmented reality. So that's one operational improvement that we can see. The second one is about a better optimization of the power system. I think here also digitalization brings an ability to get better insight on your renewable energy generation, on your asset performance, again, in real time. And with all that information together, then you're able to better optimize the use of your generation assets, and therefore able to maximize the benefits that you're getting out of your power system. And then the last one I would say is on the customer experience side that you mentioned. I think here also, when it comes, for example, to storm response, I think here having a better real-time understanding through, for example, smart meters of which house has lost power, and also having that ability to communicate digitally, in real time with your customers, telling them, okay, I know you've lost powers. My expectation is that you will be able to get your power back in X minutes or X hours. So also this is all enabled by digital solutions, and this is also another big advancement and improvement in customer experience.
Mm-hmm. Great. And I've got one more question for you. This might be a tough one, but do you think that the grid will be fundamentally different in 20 years? And if so, how will it be different?
Yeah, I mean that's a tough one. So so couple of answers to that. The first one is, I think first and foremost, the electricity will become the backbone of the carbon-free energy future. So that is key, meaning that our grid will become even more important compared to today. So that's the fundamental piece. So then we believe that a portion of power generation will be distributed generation type of resources. But we still believe that utility scale generation will continue to provide the bulk of the generation. So meaning that the transmission grid will continue to become very important as it is today. But that transmission grid, I think, fast forward in 20 years from now, I think will be more, we'll have a higher capacity, because of the electricity will become the backbone of the energy system. So there will be more demand for electricity. So we'll increase the capacity, but also then the flexibility, but also the reliability need to increase. The flexibility to be able to accommodate to the increase in renewable energy, that creates its own challenge, but then reliability, because when electricity becomes the backbone of the energy system, losing power in your house for 1 hour or a new building for 1 hour will become even more of a problem compared to what it is today. And today it is already a problem. Tomorrow, if you cannot charge your car and go to work, you're not going to be happy. So reliability will be even more important. And then I'd say the last point I would say is I think we're going to see a paradigm shift, in the sense that today, the way we try to always keep the balance between supply and demand, today we are able to control what we call dispatch or generation, meaning that we can increase or decrease the generation based on the demand. So we play on the generation side. Tomorrow, when you shift to a mix where we rely more on renewable energy, and by definition, renewable, you cannot dispatch, you cannot control, because it depends on the sun, depends on the wind. You don't have control on that. So here we're going to have to change a little bit the way we manage the balance between supply and demand by playing more on shaping and matching the load. This is where you talk about demand response. This is when you introduce storage. So here, this is another, I think, change that we believe we're going to see in the next 20 years. So we can talk about it for hours, because there's so many things that could change and that will change. But I think those are some very interesting elements.
Yeah, so many exciting things happening in the industry, and I really appreciate your time today. I'm looking forward to seeing those changes happen over the next 20 years, hopefully some of them sooner than that. But it's been great to talk with you today, and really appreciate your time. And thanks, Anthony. We will talk again soon.
Thanks, Erin. It was a pleasure. Thanks for your time. Thank you.